Alright friends, welcome back. My name is Okechukwu Joshua Otazi, friends, and today I'm going to be teaching you about the tools of Photoshop. And without wasting much of your time, friends, I'd just like you to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please do click on the subscribe button to encourage us to keep posting such videos. And please do like our videos if you do enjoy them and find them interesting. Alright, so friends, without wasting much of your time, I'm just going to delve into the tutorial for today. Alright, so friends, the last time we met, we talked about the move tool, and then we talked about we talked about the selection tool, and then we talked about the market tool and the likes. Alright, so friends, today I'm going to be starting with the lasso tool. Alright, if you just click on L on your keyboard, it's going to definitely direct you to this section. Let me just collapse this. Alright, so if you just click on L on your keyboard, it's going to automatically bring you to the lasso tool. Alright, so but today I'm going to be talking about the lasso tool, and I'm going to be starting with the lasso tool, and I move over to the polygonal lasso tool, then I talk about the magnetic lasso tool, and then I talk about the crop tool and the likes. Alright, so friends, without wasting much of your time, I'm just going to go to File, and then I'm going to open a new document, something that we can work with as an example. So let's work with this particular document as an example. Alright, so I just open the document. Now you can see over here the background is locked, so I have to unlock the background. So I just double tap on the background, and then I'm going to click on OK. Alright, so that's how I get to unlock the background. Now friends, let me just digress a little over here. Now friends, so you know, there are lots of tools I'm going to be teaching you how the basics, but we don't use them frequently in making designs in Photoshop. But it is good that you just have a little tip of how it works. Alright, so some tools I'm going to be showing you, because some tools can substitute for another tool. Alright, that's one thing you find with Photoshop, and I'm going to teach you subsequently. Alright, so you may not be good in one tool, but you're good in the other tool. There are several ways in which you can use that particular tool that you're good in to achieve your purpose or desired results. Alright, so friends, at this juncture right now, you can see I have a working document over here. Alright, so I'm going to work in with this. I just zoomed it in so that you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so friends, at this juncture right now, you can see what I want to do right now is just basically to teach you how to use the lasso tool. You can press on L on your keyboard, and then or just click on the lasso tool. Alright, so if I just come over, having clicked on the lasso tool, if I just come over to the edge of this particular red banner over here, and I just come over here and I'm dragging. Now I left clicked and I'm dragging through the edges. I'm trying to you're seeing that the line is trying to fit to the edges. It's trying to fit to the edges, and if I just drag round about through the edges, it's trying to match the edges. Alright, that's what the lasso tool is trying to do right now. So the lasso tool is trying to detect the edges, right? Even though I'm not doing a great job, and it's almost working the same way the magnetic lasso tool behaves. But the magnetic lasso tool is going to be even much more effective and efficient when it comes to this type of cutting out background. And I'm going to show you subsequently. Now, friends, you can see I've made a selection around about this particular banner. I can just click on delete, or I can just Ctrl Z, or I can do whatever I want to do with this thing. I can carry this thing to this other new design. Alright, so bring it over here inside this design and start working with it on this particular design. Alright, so there are many things I can do with this, having highlighted it. So sometimes you want to cut out the background of a particular image, or you may want to try using the lasso tool if that suits what you want to do. Alright, so friends, the next thing I'm going to be talking about right now is the polygonal lasso tool. Alright, so with the polygonal lasso tool, this time around, you're not going to leave Photoshop to detect the edges for you. You are the one to detect the edges. Alright, so at this juncture, I'm going to just click on this particular edge over here, and then the next thing I want to do right now, you can see is a line. I can't drop this line. It's moving around with my mouse, so I have to drag it to the other edge, and I click over here, and then I come down here and click over here, and then I come over here, click over here, and then I click over here, and then I click over here, then I click over here, and I come up back here, and then this is the only time I can drop it. Now you can see right now I'm not leaving Photoshop to detect the edges for me. I have to detect the edges myself. And so what I did was I used my mouse to move around the edges and clicking on each section of the edge. Alright, so at this juncture right now, you can see that I can cut this background neatly and take it to this other design, or I can just press delete on my keyboard and it gets deleted. Alright, so friends, just so you know, at this juncture, that's how we use the polygonal lasso tool. Polygonal lasso tool is a little bit more intelligent for me than just the lasso tool. Alright, so the next thing we're going to be talking about now is the magnetic lasso tool. Now the magnetic lasso tool works a little bit similar to the lasso tool, just that the magnetic lasso tool is also much more intelligent. Alright, so it's going to fit to the edges. Now watch what happens when I use the magnetic lasso tool. So if I just come to the edges, you can see what it's doing. It's doing a better job for me than just the lasso tool. So this is detecting the color, trying to pick the color, and then trying to fit to the edges. Alright, so at this juncture right now, if I come to the end and then I drag over to the end over here, and I bring it over here, and I take it back. You can see what I'm getting over here, and then I bring it over here. All right, so you can see with the magnetic lasso tool, I was able to cut out this background effectively. All right, so basically, friends, these three items over here, they help you in cutting out background. All right, they help you in cutting out background. All right, just to remove those crispy lines, you can press on Ctrl D on your keyboard, or you can come to select and click on deselect. All right, so that's how we remove those crispy lines. I believe I've already shown you that in the previous video. All right, so friends, at this juncture right now, you can see that these three tools perform the same functions, but most frequently, most people use the polygonal lasso tool, because the polygonal lasso tool does a very neat job compared to just the lasso tool or the magnetic lasso tool. All right, so friends, these three tools, they help you do the same, basically the same thing. They just help you make selections on a particular item. Now, what is the weakness of the lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool and the magnetic lasso tool? And I'm just going to quickly show you a quick one. Let me quickly bring in an image. File, open. Let's quickly open something like this. Okay. Oh no, I'm going to work with some. Okay, maybe we should still work with that. File, open. Let's work with this. All right, so friends, let me show you quickly the weakness of these three tools, right? Especially this polygonal lasso tool. All right, I've shown you that the polygonal lasso tool cuts background very much neatly than the magnetic lasso tool and then just the lasso tool. All right, but the weakness of the lasso tool, polygonal lasso tool, is this. With the polygonal lasso tool, you can only make selections on a straight line. Right, you can't make, if for example, if we want to cut out the background of this particular design over here, I can't cut out the background by because with the polygonal lasso tool. The reason being that the polygonal lasso tool works with just a straight line. You see, it can't bend, it can't create a circle shape for me. It has to be something that has to be with a straight line. So I have to be going bit by bit by bit, and I'm not going to get a very nice job using just the polygonal lasso tool. All right, so the polygonal lasso tool can't work with complex images like this. Right, it can work with images like this and cut them out neatly because it has to do with a straight line. All right, so if it's a straight line, you want to use the polygonal lasso tool. But when the image you're trying to cut is curved, when there are curved edges like that, you don't want to use the polygonal lasso tool. Trust me, the polygonal lasso tool is the last tool you want to use when it comes to cutting the background of images that are curved. All right, so maybe the magnetic lasso tool can do a good job, but maybe not the best tool to use to cut such background. It can do a better job than just the polygonal lasso tool. You can see over here, it's going round about the edges. I'm just going to stop here. All right, so you can see over here that the magnetic lasso tool is doing a better job than just the polygonal lasso tool when it comes to cutting curved edges. And so these tools have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. All right, so the polygonal lasso tool can work very much effectively. You use the polygonal lasso tool when the image you're trying to cut is a straight line and it doesn't have curved edges. But then when the images have curved edges, you may want to, and then a plain background, if it has curved edges and a plain background, you want to try using the magnetic lasso tool. All right, so basically, friends, this whole tool help you to cut out the background of images. Now, what I'm going to be showing you subsequently, as you follow the tutorial, I'm going to show you one tool that can do all of these functions effectively without you having to use the magnetic lasso tool or switch to tools when you have different images. The tool can work with both curved edges like this, and then it can work with also images like this. All right, there's a tool I'm going to be showing you subsequently that can help you cut out the background subsequently. All right, so but it's important you have a background knowledge of how these tools function. And so what we just learned right now is that the magnetic lasso tool is very much from this lasso tool options here. The magnetic lasso tool can work with images that are curved edges and plain background. All right, so be careful what I'm saying now. Plain background, this is just a plain white background. All right, so plain background and curved edges, you want to use the magnetic lasso tool. All right, so plain background and straight line edges, you want to use the polygonal lasso tool. All right, so friends, basically when we have complex backgrounds, sometimes you don't want to use either of these tools. Right, you want to use something a little bit more sophisticated, and I'm going to be coming to that. But for now, just work with what I'm showing you so that you don't get confused. All right, so friends, at this juncture right now, the eyedropper tool is something else I'm going to be teaching you. Now, so the eyedropper tool, I'm not going to be spending too much time on the eyedropper tool and then the zoom tool, so that we can have enough time to do some real projects. and then touch everything that there is in Photoshop before doing some real projects here in Photoshop. Alright, so I'm just going to click on this eyedropper tool, and then I'm going to click on eyedropper. Now if I click on the eyedropper tool, what the eyedropper does is that it helps you to sample colors. It helps you to sample color. So if I just click on yellow over here, having clicked on the eyedropper tool, I'm just going to click on this color over here. Now watch what happens to the foreground color. Alright, you can see what happened to the foreground color. The foreground color gets filled with that particular color I'm clicking on. If I click on white, it becomes white. If I click on black, it becomes black. If I click on yellow, it becomes yellow. Alright, so that's what the eyedropper does. It helps you to change your background color, your foreground color. It can pick your foreground color, it can pick your background color. What if I want to make it a black color? I just click on black, it becomes black. Now if I want to change the black that is underneath, now let me quickly just show you something here. This color you see on top over here is called the foreground color. The one under it is called the background color. Alright, so we have two different colors over here. The first one is called the foreground color, then the other one under it is called the background color. Alright, so friends, if I want to fill in the color on top with white, I just click on white and you see it becomes white. Now what if I want to fill this one that is painted black, this particular background color over here, I want to fill it with maybe yellow color. What I do is this, I just hold my Alt key on my keyboard and then I click on the color if I want to fill it in with it. Alright, you can see over here the color gets filled in and it becomes yellow. I can hold my Alt key and click on this color, it becomes black. I can hold my Alt key. As I'm holding my Alt key, any color I click on, it appears on the background. But if I release my Alt key and just click on this color, it appears on the foreground. Alright, so friends, you can see over here. Let me just drop the two and show you something quick. So I click on V on my keyboard, or I just click over here and I drop the two. Now I'm free. Alright, so everything is dropped. Alright, so right now we have yellow on our foreground and then we have white on our background. Now friends, let me show you quickly. I'm just giving you a little background of this particular tool right now. You can see I've moved away from the eyedropper tool. Alright, but it's important I show you this. Alright, if I just press X on my keyboard, you can see this is switching. Just be pressing the X on your keyboard, it's switching over here. Right, it's switching over here. It's also appearing over here, but that doesn't mean anything. So I just click X on my keyboard, and then what was in the foreground goes to the background, and what is in the background comes to the foreground. Alright, so just a quick tip that you should know. Alright, so basically friends, we are going to soon come to this as we keep moving down the tools. We are going to eventually come to this, and I'm going to talk much about how this particular section work here in Photoshop. Alright, so friends, at this juncture right now is the eyedropper tool. Alright, so now you know how the eyedropper tool work. It just samples color, pick a particular color, and then the color gets to appear over here. If it's the top color, you don't need to hold anything on your keyboard, you just click on it. That's the foreground color. But if you want to fill in the background color, you have to hold Alt on your keyboard before clicking on the color. Alright, so I'm going to come over here. We're not done with the eyedropper section. Alright, so we have something else like maybe we rarely use the 3D material eyedropper tool. You don't need it. It's going to be useless as long as I'm concerned in making designs that we are going to be making in this project, and color sampler, whatever. Alright, so something else, ruler. I really don't use ruler. Alright, so we have note 2. Note 2, you won't be needing note 2. What's note? Note 2 is just to write notes on your design. For example, let me just quickly show you something. If I just click on the note 2 and I click on this, now I can type in a note and say this design is for so and so and so, that and that and that, and it just basically writes like PDF kind of file. Just write a note and the like. So you can delete it by just right clicking, and I'm going to delete the notes. Alright, so I don't need note 2 for anything. Alright, so basically friends, okay, let me just quickly show you the count 2, which I don't think you'll still be using and there's any need for that, but let me just quickly show you that. So I'm just going to open this particular design to show you. Alright, so this particular count 2. Alright, so as I just click on this count 2, what it does is that it will help you to count the element. I can choose a better color. Let me choose a color like red so that I can see what I'm doing over here. Okay, let's see, red color. So if I come over here and I click on this, it counts it numbers it number 1. If I click here, it becomes number 2. Right, if I click here, it becomes number 3. Click here, number 4. Click here, number 5. Click here, number 6. Click here, number 7. Click here, number 8. Click here. For me, I don't really use this particular tool in my project, but it's important to know how the tools function. It's just a basic guidance. I'm just giving you a guiding principle of the tools, and so that it won't look like you don't know anything about those tools when the time comes. Alright, so friends, basically these are some of the tools that we are using in Photoshop. Alright, so having talked about the eyedropper tool, trust me, you're going to be using this eyedropper tool frequently in Photoshop. It's one of the most frequent tools you're going to be using, because sometimes I want to bring in a rectangle shape over here, and I want to maybe give it the same color with this bottle so that my design will match or to blend. I just have to click on this eyedropper to sample this particular color. You can see over here the color comes over here, and then I can just fill this yellow box with that particular color. Alright, so friends, at this juncture, I want you to know that you'll be using the tool you're going to be using most frequently in this section is going to be the eyedropper tool. Alright, and then in this section, I've already shown you that you can be using the Polygonal Lasso tool or the magnetic Lasso tool. They have their strengths and weaknesses. Alright, so friends, the move tool, we've talked about the move tool in the previous video. If you've not watched the previous video, please do check out the previous video so that you get a little understanding of what we are doing. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to be talking about right now is going to be about the crop tool. Alright, so I'm going to just click on this particular crop tool, and trust me, in this crop tool, the only thing you're going to be using is this particular tool where you see crop tool. Trust me, I'm not going to be using the perspective crop tool frequently. You don't use the slice tool. I'm not going to be showing you everything about this crop tool, but I'm going to be showing you the major tool that you're going to be using in this section, which is the crop tool. Alright, so I just click on this crop tool, and if I click on crop tool, alright friends, you can see my design. What happens to my design? Alright, so I click on crop tool, you can see there is a line round about my design. Maybe I should just zoom in a little. Okay, I believe you can see the design right now. There is a crispy line round about this particular design. Now if I just come to the edge, can drag this to this end, and then come to this other line where I see an arrow, can drag into this other section. Maybe I just want to crop the computer. Alright, so I just come over to where the computer is, and then when I'm done with what I want to do, maybe this is the area I want to crop, I'll just come over here and then I'm going to apply the crop. Alright, so I can just commit the crop operation, and by clicking on this checkbox. If I want to cancel it, I just click over here and cancel it. If I want to restart it, I just restart it by clicking over here. So I just click on OK. Alright, you can see over here every other element goes away aside this particular section of the design, and so this is my new work. Alright, so friends, basically for today the takeaway is this. When you have we talked about the lasso tool, we talked about the crop tool, and then we talked about the eyedropper tool. And I told you that when it comes to the lasso tool, the two tools we use frequently are the Polygonal Lasso tool and then the magnetic Lasso tool. The magnetic Lasso tool works for images that have curved background, and I use this particular image to show you. For this particular image, you want to use the magnetic Lasso tool and not the Polygonal Lasso tool. But for this particular image, where we have a straight line element or banner, we want to use the Polygonal Lasso tool and not the magnetic Lasso tool. And then I showed you about the crop tool and how the crop tool basically work, and I've shown you how we were able to use the crop tool to cut out some sections of a particular image. And then we talked about the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool was used to sample color, pick sections of our design, and just help to fill in the foreground or then the background with some sampled color. Alright, so friends, for today, I think that's where we're going to be stopping. Alright, so in the next video, friends, I'm going to skip lots of things over here, and then we are going to just maybe jump into the gradient tool, and then talk about eraser tool, and I think these are the two tools we're going to be talking about in this particular section. And then before we move over to the pen tool, I'm going to delve more. I'm going to be dealing more with this particular pen tool. This is the most important tool that you need to know in Photoshop: the pen tool, the text tool, and then the rectangle, or what is called the rectangle tool or whatever. Right, so these are the three major tools you are going to be using frequently in Photoshop. Of course, the gradient tool, and then the eraser tool, the Polygonal Lasso tool, which I've shown you, the eyedropper, and then the crop tool. Those are some of the most frequently used tools on my designers in Photoshop. Alright, so friends, without wasting much of your time, I would just like you to take out time and then get some work and then practice what you've learned. And if there's any question, please drop it at the comments below. I'm going to read your comments, and I'm going to reply to some of your questions. Alright, so friends, without wasting much of your time, I'd like you to have a nice day. Thank you so much.